civil rights and everything else. Because guess what? The way they slowed civil rights down, they stuck white women's rights. They connected it to civil rights with the black movement. You see, and that pissed off black people because black people were like, wait a minute. Okay, because that means that the black woman got the double whammy. Okay, I mean she was hit with not only is she's a woman but also she's black, and you didn't. So how can you connect those two when she's still getting hooked up and she was standing there right there gaining the benefits more so than a black male or a black female, just like the German soldier had more rights than the black. I mean, and then they all of a sudden, well, we're going to stick the gays right along with the black people too. No, whoa, wait a minute, no, you can't put that because that's a different thing too. Because then you had black gays, and the black gays like, well, damn, wait a minute, I didn't even get to announce that I was gay. I had to keep that shit quiet because I probably would have got crucified by my own people,
right?
If I'd have came out,
Yeah. Well, we're seeing this, we're talking about this as if it's history,
right.
But we're seeing it now. The AP broke a story this week that the Army, the United States Army, has been quietly discharging immigrant recruits. There's a special program for immigrants to serve in the Army.
Yep.
And basically get fast-tracked for citizenship.
Right.
And these are people who are not here illegally.
Nope.
And for the most part, there might have been some DACA, but they're not here illegally.
But you risk your life.
So you are ruining the whole concept of, oh, no, it's just the undocumented that we're against. No, you fucking racist pieces of shit. And I hope you all fucking die, every single one of you.
Don't sugarcoat it, Jim. How do you really feel about these people?
Now you're wasting my money, too,
right.
Because these are people who have been trained,
right.
who have been training in the military, and now you're kicking them out. And by the way, some of them are from places like Pakistan, where we need people who understand the languages and the culture.
And the culture, definitely.
My nephew-in-law, my niece's husband, is a white guy, but he also was trained in the military to speak Arabic, and yet was not used properly during our conflicts. In fact, his unit was in Georgia while we were invading Iraq.
Soviet Georgia?
Atlanta.
By the way, quick tangent. Because I Googled this, it surprises me that there is no band or album that has taken the name Soviet Georgia Brown. It's very upsetting to me. Anyway, go on,
It's good
Jim.
to know that your name is, you can choose that for your next band, or maybe get Jeremy to start a band. So they're wasting resources. They're doing that, obviously, as well with transgender soldiers who are trained and are in the military doing their job. Yeah. So absolutely, they're fucking shit up. I want to say with affirmative action, I think you could get rid of affirmative action tomorrow, but what you need to replace it with is something that would make everyone very uncomfortable, is absolute, total enforcement of all laws on discrimination with a police unit so that we, get rid of the meter maids,
right,
and bring in the people who make sure, oh, you got 100 resumes, 50 of them were from black people, and you interviewed 13 white people.
Right.
That's a violation, and prosecute at every level of employment. And then you'd see a change as well. Because the affirmative action only is affecting colleges and public sector jobs, right? It's not affecting where I work.
No. It's also affecting, housing. Remember, that's the reason why that's when redlining had lasted as long as it did. Yeah, Elaine Hansberry, the great writer, Elaine Hansberry, her father fought to get them put in a house in Chicago, in a predominantly white neighborhood, which they firebombed the house to run them out. She just got missed being hit with a Molotov cocktail when she was in that house, and they ended up having to move to Mexico. They were treated better in Mexico.
Missouri?
Mexico, the city of Mexico, and were treated better there. Too bad her dad never got to see or embrace what he really enjoyed. But he fought them and he won, and then they eventually threw his case out, and they had to move.
Yeah, so she's the author of A Raisin in the Sun.
Yes.
And then she died really young.
Yeah, she ended up dying of pancreatic cancer, I think it was. But her husband was a Jewish guy who wrote this great song or whatever that I can't remember the song that he wrote, but it sold millions of copies. And he told her, "I want you to be," he was able to pay for her to be the writer that she wanted. She didn't have to work, and she wrote, and that's when she created. She put the first black play on Broadway, which was, I think, "Raisin in the Sun" was one of the first black plays ever.
By the way, there's another play that came out a few years ago. I just want to plug it. It's called Clybourne Park, and it's I think it's about a different family, but there's some connection to the same family in A Raisin in the Sun, which is a great play. But
well, and they went through redlining. And so redlining has lasted damn near 100 years. Okay, since they implement, and there were guys. Matter of fact, a developer by the last name of Kaiser, who would not. He said, "We will build houses." And this is in California. "I will build houses, but you are not to sell to black people. You could not sell to black." And also, let's say this: what happened with the housing was they insured the mortgages of white families. They would not insure the mortgages of black families. So the loans, mortgage loans, and they wouldn't do it of the Hispanics either. That's why the 10 freeway was built. The 10 freeway was built to block people from moving in block you from getting into those particular areas. That's where that freeway came from. I mean, that's what I keep telling.
How did they know the traffic would be so bad even when they were building it?
Yeah, right. But this was a systematic way to destroy lives and keep people to where your neighborhood would grow, jobs would come, and you could use your house to send your kids to college. And blacks and Hispanics were not able to. Yeah,
there was. I think it was in Philadelphia. There was just a bank a few years ago that they realized, we're not putting in any ATMs in areas where black people live. I mean, the banking industry would also, like, if my plan would be implemented, there would be a guy breathing down the neck of every single loan officer, making sure that, that all loans are fair.
Well, it's like any rapper would say, like the rapper said in their song, when you cage an animal and you are not allowing him to be free and have the same thing, what do you expect him to do and how do you expect him to act once you've encaged him in a way that he does not have the same freedoms of anyone else?
Well, and also going back to the story about immigrants being discharged from the military, not only are they caged metaphorically, by their race and somewhat more tangibly by white people, but you're giving them army training.
Right.
It's like, when someone's got like a crazy hyperactive child and they're like, "Oh no, he's doing karate lessons." And you're like, "Really? Is that really the best use of his time?" "Oh no, it helps him channel his energy." And it's also teaching him to kill you. And no, there's karate. It's a very moral, high standing, that you do not attack unless you're attacked first. And you have instilled these values in your crazy hyperactive child? Because I haven't seen it the way he's stabbing your other child with a plastic fork.
Well, you're looking at them. You're looking also, who is the most dangerous individual or dangerous groups today? They're white militias. These are white dudes who are wiping out. And why are they doing it? They say, "Oh, he's got mental illness." No, you sold him on the fear that these people are going to take from him. And then he goes off and just shoots everybody. The problem with him, he's killing white people as well as he's killing black people. He's killing everybody. He didn't give a shit who he shoots. He's mad at the world because you guys, the way the country's built, he feels like he's getting fucked. That white boy, every time he does what he does, feels like, one, I'm bullied. I don't get what everybody else is getting. I have no friends. No one's talking to me. You piss me off. Guess what? I'm going to start shooting everybody.
Well, and, as I'm sure we have all experienced as comedians, the three of us in this room, listener, I mean, if you're a comedian too, you may have experienced this, but we've all been at shows where someone just does a horrible fucking set. They just stink up the room, and then they walk off stage and they go, "Man, the room really sucks tonight."
Right.
And it's like, not necessarily, and this is the problem is, these angry white folks, every time there's a problem, every time there's a stumbling block that they are not able to overcome, it is immediately somebody else's fault. It's the black guy who's trying to take his job. It's the Mexican who's banging his sister. it doesn't matter. It's always someone else's fault. And when from the comedian perspective, if every time you suck, you walk off stage and blame the room,
right,
you're never going to get better because it's always the room's problem. Your shit's fucking gold.
Well, you had the cop. You do remember the police officer whose daughter was dating. He found out that his daughter was dating a black guy, and he arrested him. He pulled him over and arrested the guy. And someone filmed it. Dude lost his job.
As he should.
Because he was pissed off that his daughter was dating a black dude. And you don't understand. Dude, obviously you drove her to the black guy because of the way of the shit that you were doing, and she didn't believe in what you were doing. So she was like, I'm going to get... I happen to like black people. You're lying.
Think about all the policing he's done.
Right.
If he'd been policing for 20 years,
right,
he's got an adult daughter.
Right.
What are his other traffic stops like?
Right.
I
need to see your license, registration, and have you seen my daughter?
Yeah. Yeah. When we were talking earlier before we started the show, we were kind of talking about how race was sort of invented by the English in a way. You're talking about. I was reading a comment by a white South African whose family was sort of on the outs with the politically dominant Afrikaner, and he was writing about how apartheid came in. I just assumed initially that apartheid had been around for hundreds of years, but it actually came in 1948 with a minority party that was basically, I don't know, GOP. And what they did is it was already a racist country, let's not kid ourselves, but they invented all of these racial laws that said, kind of like redlining, but to the nth degree, forcing all blacks in this area to lose their land, and then they could only rent in other areas, and so you prevent people from gaining wealth. And anyway, it was shocking to me that even in South Africa, it was a minority political group that came into power. That it took them 40 years to get rid of them, and hopefully we will not take us 40 years to get rid of Trump.
Right.
But
we'll see, because and I'm glad you brought that up. We all heard about, and some people cried about the announced resignation of Supreme Court Justice Kennedy.
Yeah.
And looking at looking at the possibility of giving Trump a second chance to put someone on the Supreme Court is entirely frightening. But one of his two favored candidates is a circuit court judge, goes by the name of Amy Coney Barrett, and she's been getting a little bit more press than everybody else because it turns out she is a member of the Catholic subgroup, the People of Faith. And I don't know if you've heard about these folks.
Never heard of them.
No.
It's not quite Mel Gibson's dad, but they take they're part of the charismatic renewal. So they take Catholic traditions and Protestant Pentecostalism. It's like, let's take the worst things of two bad religions and throw them all together in one room and let's get these people on the court.
I wonder, because I have family members that might have been into that. That's interesting.
It is fairly big in the Midwest. It did start in South Bend, Indiana, the home of Notre Dame University. And what is it about religion that makes someone go, talking snakes, guy coming back from the dead, not crazy enough for me. Let's get more crazy. Let's add some snake handling and what else you want? Subjugation of minorities and women. Oh, well, that's a given.
Right. I always say, that one, know thyself. It is always, we were talking about this, self-examination, to examine thyself, because in our society, they always tell you immediately there's something wrong with you, and they want you to join the group. Which group are you going to join? And you find out that and that's why they give you so many distractions, because you will never get to know who you truly are and how to, embrace what you are. Your weirdness, whatever they may consider weird. You may say, hey, most guys are, you ever had that one guy in school, he wore red socks all the time, and people say, man, you're fucked up. You go, this guy's wearing red socks, and everybody else has got on, everyone's trying to make sure they have on the same socks. This guy says, screw you, I'm wearing red every day. Okay, and people say, oh, there's something wrong with him. No, he's being who he's supposed to be, and he likes himself. He's dealing with him because, and he's also